lunatic, so to speak, and replace them with his own people. I mean, of course, and this is what everyone said Trump did wrong, but by not doing when he first got in, he didn't fire everyone.
Yeah, just in the case of the say what we were discussing with the immigration thing, the first thing you do if you came to power is open up your own, say, office of deportation, and then you begin. So you rate, and that's what its purpose is as well. You stack up with your guys, and then you'll find that a lot of the other people, the other parts of the bureaucracy who you've stripped them of power, they've got nothing to do anymore, so they've just got to be fired. And all of this stuff, the jobs for life and the civil service, no. You just stop the paychecks. You're out. You're gone. Break the rules. Make new rules.
What you said about the girls on the roof getting massages and stuff, it's hilarious. I remember a year and a half ago, I was doing quite a lot of creative writing at the time, and one of the stories that I was going to write was about the career of a girl, like her whole career, from the age of 20 to 60, 65, at one of these corporations, like imagining the course of that career throughout the 21st century. And I think it's a really nice idea, but the trouble is that the world has already changed. So I don't know if such a thing would be possible, at least not at Twitter, maybe at the other Silicon Valley giants. I don't know. But it is a fascinating thing because it was inspired when I saw this girl it was shared on Twitter or must have been Telegram at the time, and I saw it. There was this video. This girl who works at LinkedIn, maybe you saw it yourself. She was like this 22-year-old girl working at LinkedIn, and I think her job was just to make these videos about her life, supposedly working at LinkedIn, in order to make that company look great and look really inviting for young people to work at. And basically it was like a creche for young adults where they just had fun all the time. Incredible range of food, all sorts of treats, away days, workshops at some exotic location, flights to some other city where they would do a special away day, all sorts of stuff, and then staff parties, and then out in the city, again, drinking, having fun. And that was it. And there didn't seem to be any actual work going on whatsoever, except very social type, female sort of stuff, where they'd all gather together and talk for ages. And that was it. And I thought this is fascinating because it's like a completely artificial thing, a completely artificial world that's being sustained by funny money, I guess. Just investment from BlackRock, it just keeps it going. And it's all utterly meaningless. And that fascinated me in a dark sort of way. But yeah.
Well, look, the thing is, like, if you think of that, like a 20, well, look, the thing is, like, if you think of that, like a 25-year-old woman gets to spend the day, like, it's getting a massage, getting an Indian head massage, and like drinking iced tea and sunbathing, and then doing digital coding for 45 minutes, and then she'll go off to the gym, which is in the office, and she gets like $150,000 a year for what I mean? It's just a complete non-job. But like that's in San Francisco, and you see these videos now of America, which you've seen it where like everybody's a zombie, and they're on the streets of big American cities, and they're kind of hunched over. They stand in weird ways and there'll be loads of them as well. There'll be hundreds of people on the street, and they're all just sort of shuffling about, like with a shopping trolley or lying across the pavements, and I think this girl see like a woman and a 30-year-old woman, and they're sitting in the car doing a TikTok video, and they're saying like, no matter what I do, I've got 2 jobs. I can't put the heating on in the house anymore. I can't feed the kids. I can't go anywhere. I'm living like meal to meal, and now I've just been hit. The rent's gone up by £300 a month, and they're like, you see this coming from Canada as well, and it's like I can't go on. I can't go on like this, and it's like people are being squeezed dry. And I think it adds to this kind of. I don't want to be a downer either, but it adds to this kind of. It's like we're living. It's like we're living in a crisis, but it hasn't been formalized and declared. You haven't been in the past. There would be like an economic crash, and it would be all over the news, and everybody would be talking about it, and shops would begin to close, and it would be like this formal thing. It is an event. It is an economic thing, and it seems like that kind of thing's happening, but in slow motion, and it hasn't been announced in a way. So people are left kind of confused that everything's so bloody difficult now. I mean, my friend was the diversity is really starting to reach into the northeast now, finally. And a friend of mine went to took his baby daughter to the NHS, and he said, it was like being in Africa. And this was in, I think this was in Newcastle. And then he was like, it's like, I can't, this is like Africa. And even to get there was a nightmare because the roads are too clogged. And like, it's just this sort of all pervasive shitness of life. I mean, at least, we're talking about whatever happened to the Likely lads or whatever. Yeah, they didn't have it great either, but I don't think it felt like this. If you watch the boys from the Black stuff back in the day, where you had these kind of critiques of Thatcherism, and you had Yosser Hughes, give us a job, I can do that, and he's desperate they're literally like, on the breadline, under the breadline.
Note that he's saying "gives a job."
Yeah,
he's not give me a welfare check.
Well,
he wants a job. That's so ingrained in him to be self-sufficient that it crushes him that he can't get a job and be self-sufficient.
Yeah, and he literally walks onto like building sites with his son and just he starts just building the walls for them. Like it would, just walked off the streets and he just starts picking up a trowel and building the walls for like a tenner or something. But even then, I think that you had this kind of it was just like a good old fashioned hard times. But now we've got hard times, but not formally, and at the same time surrounded by all this sparkling technology which didn't exist in the past. And it's like that girl who it's like the same symbolism of the girl who steps out of her convertible Mercedes and steps over the corpses and dodges the zombie people to go in on her like shit job sending out emails for HR departments to see how they've met their transsexual quotas or whatever, or all this like rubbish. And I just feel it just feels like something's just sort of sapping all the life out of the West for the last few years, and we don't exactly know what it is.
Yeah, there is a feeling of everything falling apart just now, and and I really don't want to depress people, because after all, it has to fall apart if there is going to be any sort of rebuilding. The problem is that this reminds me of the whole thing about the Great Reset, where there's a theory that they have to destroy the economy in order to rebuild it in the way that they want. That's not altogether. I mean, I don't think that necessarily follows. They could just alter it. But people had this theory that that's what's going on. It's a controlled demolition, and COVID was part of that. And even the electric cars, everything. It's all to basically lull people into a lack of agency and a lack of direction. And then the elites will swoop in with a new ideal for living, well, a whole new way of living, whole new economy and everything. Well, what do you think about that sort of thing? Now, this is a question that I really wanted to put to you on Millennial, because it's come up a few times so far on Millennial. I think that they are the Great Reset talk has really disappeared. Whereas, as you and I know very well, it was front and center for about a year or two, 2020 to 21. So, what do you think's going on there?
I think I've seen it pop up in different places. It's obviously not in your face, but in the real world, like people are on the path to owning nothing. I mean, if that's related to all of that, those PR videos that were doing the rounds a few years ago or not, I don't know, but people are on the road to owning nothing. And then when you look at it's kind of, the problem is it's really boring to talk about because it's like about who's buying land and property and this kind of thing. And all of that's still going on. I mean, I listened to one of the few shows that I've caught was Woodlanders, and I thought that's exactly what he was talking about. I really enjoyed that one, where they're buying up all of this land everywhere, which then reduces the ability of people to buy homes, but so too does the immigration. The thing that I never understood about the sort of the technocrat agenda, and I said it all along, like I don't understand how this melds with the mass immigration. Like if you're going to take seriously the Agenda 2030 and getting your carbon reduced or whatever, like why are you not trying to scale down the population? Why are you bending over backwards to just flood the zone with all of these people from everywhere? Like that doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But then you could say, well, yeah, but they're going to come in with digital IDs.
It's also people who breathe like rabbits. I mean, that's
yes.
another thing. It's not just the numbers coming in; they are then going to multiply.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, I was at I remember a few months ago in the summer, I went in a shop where I bought something, a can of pop or whatever, and I had like a £10 note, and I handed the £10 note to them, and they actually wouldn't take it. They said it's down there. You've got to put it in that machine, and there was a machine which was sort of at the like my waist height. And I put it kind of sucked in the tenner. And then further down, which would have been at my knees, there was like a little kind of outlet thing. And then all of the coins, all the change would just shot out and pissed all over the floor. And so then I was down on my knees scraping up, or like a beggar, all of this money. And I thought, well, I wish I'd just paid with a card. And I thought, all right, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And yeah. I get it. And so you kind of see it there. You see it. It's still there, and but it isn't like this big flashy, oh, welcome to the new world order or anything. It's all this kind of, it's kind of shit the way they're doing it. But it adds to like everything feeling weird and dodgy. Like again, like all of the all of these Serco and these companies buying up, like waving thousands and thousands of pounds in the faces of landlords to house immigrants, which squeezes everybody out. I saw a thing today, like it was like there's a apartment block in London which is supposed to be horrible, and it's built entirely out of shipping containers. So and people are getting stabbed there. It's not like this kind of ironic sort of progressive thing. It literally just is like piles of shipping containers for people to live in. People would do that. I remember that was a trend like 20 years ago, and people thought they were right on, and it was clever. But this is no, it is just a shipping container. We're not even gonna pretend it's anything else. And so if like if this is it, like it's kind of shit. Like it's kind of bad. But
I think maybe you could say that they tried to make it flashy in 2020, 21, but they realized it just wasn't taking. People just weren't buying it. So it's actually quite similar to the Tavistock thing where, well, we can do this openly, but actually people will just object. So instead we'll do it quietly. Similar kind of thing.
I think what I've started to become more interested in is like geopolitical realities. And this is what I find wild, because some of the language and some of the stuff that's coming out from within the system is like Daily Stormer 2017 tier. And they took him off the internet for that. But here they are, the luminaries of Harvard.
Well, I remember you saying a year ago that the JQ just isn't as the forbidden fruit that it was in like 2016, 17. And here we are a year later, and I think that has increased throughout the year steadily, but then hugely increased since October.
October
the 7th, to be precise.
I've noticed for a while, like this thing where it's like, oh, name them. It's like everybody's named them. Everybody knows. Every comment section everywhere. Like everybody's clued up to one on the internet, in these, not just in our circles, but then if you see, how you get that network thing where, let's say, a YouTuber like Critical Drinker will be sort of 5 or 6 nodes over. He'll be a much bigger one than, say,
is this the alternative influencer network?
Something like that, but bigger for the entire ecosystem, not just of the dissident right, but who overlaps with who. There's people who are, for example, gonna be into Warhammer or movie critic YouTube or whoever. All of these different areas, all of them know it. I've heard Nerd Erotic kind of give a wink and a wink to the camera. He knows about Larry Fink. He knows where all of these policies are coming from with BlackRock. And it's this kind of signaling to his own audience in the comments, like, I know, you don't have to fill up your comments about it. I know. He's not going to be explicit, but he's signaling a kind of allegiance and an awareness of it in his own way. Or everybody's doing it. And I think it's kind of like become a bit passé. And now that hasn't actually changed the power structure, but it does actually matter because the dissident right, let's say, and the old guard, if this is your thing, like if this is all you've got and it's suddenly mainstreamed, it's like, now what? And in the case of the woke, you're talking about people with actual institutional power, which we don't have, of course. They do. So the stuff you see these days is unbelievable. It's Daily Stormer tier stuff that you'll see on Twitter, and it's coming from the left. Wars again, but it's like a horrible situation all around.
And you see, all of that is very, very complicated and huge in scope, but it all boils down to you see the first sign of it in something as small as there are now white men in the army recruitment adverts. You need to animate the actual people, the core ethnic group, the core race of your society, because they need to believe that their society is theirs and works for them. And they could believe that when in the 80s, when they had freedom and liberty, and they could make lots of money or whatever, and their lives were secure and stable, and their future was predictable. But they can't believe it now, when, as far as they can see, their society works against them in every way. So then, how do you motivate them to go to war for this system? I mean, this is the thing, the basic question. Why would any white guy today go to war to defend Britain or Sweden or Belgium or Germany? What's in it for him? What's in it for his kind? What's in it for his ancestors or his descendants, if he's lucky enough to have any? Because his society is working against him having any. So it's a very, very, it's a huge and consequential question.
It's like we've smashed our own kneecaps in.
Yeah, thing from 1988. They've realized, let's just not draw attention to it. Let's not have visible centers of activity that can be demonized, held to account, interrogated, mumbled about, etc. Let's just keep it all very dispersed and apparently organic and emergent even. and that makes it all look much more innocent, and people just don't have something that they can grapple onto and moan about and oppose. I think that's the more likely explanation here, that
Well, yeah,
events just got in the way of it. What geopolitical events just got in the way of an otherwise damn fine plan, as the technocrats would
yeah,
have seen it.
and this is where you what I started the stream with was like you do get this sense of this doom and gloom and this kind of shit sort of feeling settling across somewhere like England. um, and that like there's changes and and weird little things happening that are affecting people's lives, but when it's not formally declared, you're kind of feeling, is it just me? And this is why you get this phenomenon of all these women like going on TikTok and kind of screaming. They're sitting in their cars and they look exhausted. And it's like, I can't make ends meet. I'm earning 25 grand a year. I work full time and I can't pay the bills. What the hell is going on? How can I go on like this? And there's no answer because nothing has been sort of formally declared.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you maybe the econ bros could understand that a bit more. Well, I mean, I've seen a bit of that, but yeah, it's bad. It's bad. You sent me a graph the other day that productivity in England is flatlined for 10 years. We just don't, we're just not producing what we could or what we did. There was an expectation of how much stuff the UK should be producing by now, and we're not.
Yeah, the line is no longer going up, to
No.
paraphrase that, which
No,
is interesting.
another thing, and on top of all of this, like it's this the highest rates of immigration into the West, all of the Western countries, at once that we've ever seen. It's, I mean, the Tory pitch now is to get back to Tony Blair levels of immigration.
It's
That's
just
like that. It.
unbelievable.
So
So
yeah.
well, that links to another thing I was going to ask you. There's probably going to be, and no one's talking about this just now, but apparently there has to be legally a general election in Britain by January 2025, which means it's almost certainly going to happen towards the end of next year, actually around the same time as the US presidential election, which I also want to ask you about. Those are my last two things on the list. So,
Well, I
what do
think
you
the
think? Take it away.
I think we've kind of touched on the American presidential situation quite a bit because if Trump gets in, we're going to get the woke of being put away sort of scenario. I think. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be a shit show in America next year, because again, it's that same big blob of managerial nut jobs are going to pull out all the stops. But what is it going to be? Is it going to be a new Summer of Floyd? Is it going to be some, what do they call it, a black swan event? Who knows? But basically, I think the shit hit the fan. What if
It just disappeared. What's Morgoth's favourite part of Beamish? Assuming he has visited Beamish. Morgoth?
I've visited? I haven't. I visited as a small kid, but I haven't been back there. I went there with the school, but it was what I love is those little train lines where there was like a little sort of pretend steam engine, and then there was a little internal train track, and that was my favorite thing I can remember from Beamish.
Right, okay. I think I might have. I've definitely, when I was small, but we had a family trip to England. I think it was was certainly my first time in England as such, and we went to somewhere that had those wee trains, and there is a photo of me on one of them, but I won't share it. It's quite amusing, but it might have been Beamish. I don't know.
These are tensions which we're going to have to see how they go.
And
But I
that's
do.
the point. That I think that censorship is now a sort of bad it's a reputational risk for the platform that does it, because whereas in 2018, for whatever, I don't quite know why this change has happened, but in 2018, I think the public bought it, right? Yeah, okay, you're keeping us safe. And yeah, what that guy was saying was outrageous. But now everyone knows that people got banned just for having the wrong opinion about the vaccine or something. Just ridiculous stuff that had nothing to do with hate speech. So it doesn't wash anymore. And I just think that the whole business of censoring and deplatforming, I mean, has started to look like a rotten business. I mean, this is why the ADL are so fucking widely despised. And same with Hope Not Hate. I mean, who are these fucking cunts? Who are these fucking hall monitors? Fuck them. It's obvious. Like, I can obviously say this because they've impacted me personally. But I think everyone is thinking, who are these fuckers? What right do they have? Especially when we're, inculcated with democracy, because then people say, well, who voted this fuckwit in so that he can decide what the rest of us can say? Fuck him.
I mean, there was from some sort of regime outlet last month, a big thing came out by somebody called Katz, demanding censorship on Substack. Has got a neo-Nazi problem, he said. And he of course went. There was some Substack out there who was blatantly like sort of Daily Stormer type stuff from back in the day or whatever, and so they picked up on that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they probably just made that themselves. But like the problem is, if just to take a step back and look at the wider picture, I'm sorry, but like this is like once again a Katz. Somebody called Katz is now demanding that
That's KATZ.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somebody who has a background like that, like on the one hand, wants all kinds of sympathy and all kinds of special pleading about what's happening with Israel. You want me to turn a blind eye to like the massacre that your group are doing, and then you're gonna start and fucking cry me a fucking river because somebody's got a spicy Substack and you want it censored. Am I next? You want me censored at the same time that you want my sympathy? Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah.
They're going to have to face up to this problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'll pull back from this topic because I'm feeling a bit dazed just now. So I don't quite trust myself to be sufficiently cautious. To get back to some more tame territory, and Rishi Sunak should get nervous now because it's the NREB, and he says Morgoth is correct about the Tories. At least Labour are your enemy and face you as an enemy. The Tories are a friend that is supposed to be on your side and stabs you in the back. Well, exactly. It's just fucking disgusting. And I as I said, I hope that this is the end of them. I know that they're going to get finished at the election next year, but I want it to go beyond that. I don't want them to ever be in power again. I want them to become history. I want them to become that political party that did really well for a good few centuries and then fucked itself into oblivion like it deserved to. That would be great. So, all right, I'll find the next super chat. Hold on a second. Morgoth, how are you holding up?
I'm all right. I was just going to say, if the way to look at it is, if Labour get in power, yes, that's going to be shit too, but it's not your problem. When the Tories are in problem, who are ostensibly a far right party, or as the shit lib left would, the Brit libs would say, they're fascists, they're far right, blah blah blah. Look, when Labour get in, it's not your problem anymore. You're not on the hook. You've just got your enemies in charge, and then that's that. And the Tories can piss off and die. And we don't have to have this kind of, oh well, You've had 30, like you've had the Tories have stoked you up to hate migrants and blah blah blah. It's all rubbish. It's like it's the shit libs who are on the hook in the same way as what's happened in America. Like, let's just dispense with the idea that the Tories are in it for anything except lining their own pockets. And funny enough, that is like a kind of lefty take, but it's also true. Like, the rampant corruption just makes me want to puke. I saw a thing the other day, and it was the immigration thing into Britain, and the housing crisis is like 1-for-1. Okay, so the shortfall of the housing and the build rate of the housing and the influx of immigrants is 1-to-1. So so basically the reason why the housing the houses cost a fortune now is because of mass immigration. That's it. So when you take a step back, you can think, well, actually, who are the biggest donors to the Tory party? It's construction firms. And in the Northeast now, I know of places in North Tyneside, I've watched this for years, whole swathes of countryside, North Tyneside. I mean, I did a video years ago called The Last Fields of North Tyneside. And well, they're gone now as well. There'll just be no countryside. There'll just be no, because of the way it was North Tyneside with pit villages, you'd have a few fields in between. You'd come north of Newcastle, and then there was lots of little old pit villages, and there'd be a few fields and a few hills in between, and you'd have a few public footpaths. All of that now is getting wiped out. It's all going to be one giant council. Well, not a council estate. It's all going to be one giant
Sarco estate.
Yeah, new build estate, which will probably be owned by corporations, where you get some kind of weird, kind of half in, half out, 40-year mortgage to own, and the houses are like little boxes because they're going to, and all of that land is gone. And then you've got another problem. It's just, okay, so they're doing this everywhere. Where's the food coming from? We've got to grow food, and you can see that. As Woodlander was saying, Britain used to be almost self-sufficient on food.
Yeah, 85%.
Everything's having to be imported because we're killing the countryside to build new builds to house Somalians.
Oh God! Coming over here, taking our allotments.
It's actually worse than that. So the question is, as my dad would say, like in his absolute despair, who are all these houses for? The houses are not actually for the immigrants. The immigrants haven't got the capital. They haven't got the banking history. So the idea is, the immigrants, the new builds are actually for white people. They are for Brits. So,
yeah, well, the refugees go into hotels and stuff, and I guess eventually are dispersed into new build places.
The immigrant population will go into cheap social housing, and then the private accommodation, which will be bought for by corporations. So that means that the white population, the indigenous white Brit population, is being kind of displaced. They've got nowhere to go. So what then happens is it creates a massive incentive to have huge sprawling swathes of new build houses, which they can kind of just about get, and it's a shit built house as well, on a 40-year mortgage. But even then, there's like little caveats about buying it from a corporation and pissing around with all of these little sweet deals and whatnot. So this is the way it works. This is what it's all about. It's about making it It's about putting you on a hamster wheel and making you run as fast as possible, in the hope that one day you won't end up in the badlands of some inner city shithole, which the Tory party they've grifted the country dry, basically. And this is just standard. If you follow the logic of neoliberalism and some cunt like Daniel Hannan, this is
Oh
where
God,
it
I
leads.
hate that guy.
This
I
is what it
fucking
is.
hate that guy.
This
Sorry.
this is the reality of the Tory party. This is what they've done. The destruction is immense. Nobody can convince me that Labour is going to be worse than that. What Labour would do would be to actually like build loads of kind of council houses where it would be like, and then the problem comes in is that they'd probably prioritize the diversity anyway, but they would at least give people a roof over their heads. What the Tory party do with this kind of, even in neoliberal Thatcherite terms, is a kind of extreme bastardization of rigging it all, is to keep well-meaning sort of millennial, Gen X, and Zoomer native Brits desperately trying to claw their way onto the property ladder, and the bars raised ever higher.